Okay, boys. Okay. Let's change the topic here. I'm gonna steer us in a glorious direction, boys. Okay, so basically a couple of days ago, if you guys follow the Steam discussion forums, one of the Amazon Game Studio devs is on there under the title as Windsward, and he's actually quite active on Steam actually. So it's worth checking out the Steam forums if you haven't done so already. But long story short, he has posted and said, in a response to someone else, we don't have plans for a dedicated PvP server at launch. The main issue is dividing dev and support requirements between slightly different versions of the game. If they did, then we'd have to be really clear about what the long-term support would look like, since those PvP server players would expect game updates targeting their version of the game too, but mapping to their top needs and wants, separate from how the majority of other players were playing New World. I mean, I love the PvP in the game, and it's something that I would love for them to focus more on. But this whole idea for me of so many people wanting a separate PvP server from the rest of the game just doesn't. I don't know, boys. It doesn't sit well with me. I mean, he explains why it doesn't work there, but I think what people want is they want to make sure that everyone is toggled on PvP the whole time. And I understand why people want that, but my argument has always been, you can see it in the beta, right? So you'd be running along, you would find someone that's a lower level than you, and you'd go and kill them, right? You just would, because, well, I would anyway, because I'm an asshole. And if I saw someone higher level than me, I would go along and I would try and kill them too, and fight everything and everyone. So for me personally, I wouldn't mind if it was constantly toggled on, but the idea that let's take it to the extreme, right? My grandma plays New World. She doesn't want to fight the whole time. She just wants to go out logging and fishing. If she is constantly forced to PvP flag, they're not going to get anywhere. And long story short, she's probably going to quit the game. And fine, the game isn't targeted for my grandma. I get that, right? But I love that people can choose whether they want to PvP or they don't want to PvP. And for me the fundamental argument is, if I'm a hardcore PvPer, I want to fight other hardcore PvPers. I don't want to be fighting people that are, one, not interested in PvP because they're not going to be very good, and two, super low level people because it doesn't make it a challenge. I feel that a lot of the people that are fighting for constant or always toggled on PvP, quite honestly, are the people that would go around griefing and, you know, just fighting people for the sake of fighting people, you know, regardless of their kind of skill. That's my kind of take on it. Very, very quickly, I would love to see more incentives to PvP. A lot, you know, off the back of this, more incentives to PvP, more incentives to claim settlements, which in turn incentivize people to PvP because you have to PvP to claim a town and stuff. But yeah, let's see what you boys are saying. I think how the scaling works is not so bad. That it is toggled on. Yeah, the scaling is a whole other sort of topic, really, isn't it? Because throughout the beta, I met a lot of people that came into stream and said, Dan, the scaling is fucked. I hate it. It's super OP if you're low level, and you can kill anything and anyone that's high level. And I've had other people that come to me and say the scaling was absolutely fine. It was perfect. So the scaling is kind of completely related to the PvP, and I feel my personal experience was that it was okay. Obviously, when I was a level 30 fighting someone that was a level 60, it was extremely difficult. It wasn't impossible, but it was extremely difficult, and I think that's the way it definitely should be. But I haven't seen any kind of formal. I think Medieval actually. So Medieval posted a video today about it, but I personally didn't see any formal patch notes regarding how the scaling actually worked. But Tix is fine the way it is. My grandma supposed to go log in. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussions around particular areas that would be PvP zones. I feel like again you're forcing people. You know, let's say I'm just, you know, I just enjoy New World for the environment and the gathering and the audio and just the adventuring. I don't want a PvP, so why should I be forced to go into a PvP zone to get X particular material to continue my personal kind of game experience? What I would love to see is like a zone like that where, again, you're incentivized in some way, shape, or form to flag for PvP. You know, I like the idea of the caravans. You know, if you PvP on, you can kill a caravan full of materials and an enemy can defend it. Something that's not completely exclusive for PvP only. I think there needs to kind of be that constant balance between on and off. I can see a game in New World where everyone is flagged and you have to be very cautious of where you're going and what you're doing and the materials you're carrying. I can see that, but it would only really work for a couple of weeks, in my opinion, because a lot of the New World players are a bit more casual than the norm, and we saw that on our server, boys. Like, we tried to set up a PvP server, and even our own members were like, dude, there's just so much PvP all the fucking time. It's non-stop. And a lot of us love that, you know, but I had some feedback and said, it's crazy, man. It's non-stop. It's every day you're calling for PvP. And in the end, you know, a lot of our enemies toggled off PvP because they thought it was imbalanced or things like that. But I don't know. You know, that would stop people flagging off. But then again, you know, the way in the end is that they'll just stop playing the game rather than flag off and keep playing the game. It's definitely a tough discussion. I mean, based around the idea of having a PvP server, if we go on what he's talking about here about splitting resources, now I guess you know, yeah, it's Amazon. They got shitloads of resources and so on and so forth. Fine, but you know, based on what we saw on the beta, I think all of us would be happy that all of the resources were spent on, you know, squashing the server issues and, you know, removing those exploits and things like that would kind of be better spent resources than fixing up a separate version of the game for PvP. Thing is, New World isn't just about PvP. Constant PvP would get pretty lame pretty quick. Yeah, you know, there is a huge part of the game which is about kind of exploring and, you know, having a bit of an adventure. And if you're not a big fighter and you're constantly getting, want for a better term, griefed, killed constantly, and, you know, we found it in beta. People can camp your tent and stop you from spawning, basically, unless you spawn back at town and you got to run for blah blah blah. So yeah, it has its pros and cons. Like, PvP equals content for me. You know, it's great fun, but in the long run, maybe people just want to toggle off from time to time. The only change I would really like to see at launch is them fixing people sniping your resource, skinning those while 100% safe, unflagged. Yeah, that's the tough one, isn't it? You know, how do you? I off the top of my head, I have no idea how they would be able to do that. But yeah, that is always you know, standing in a line, waiting to get your iron. Not even in a line, and it's first come first serve, basically. Is it can be frustrating for sure. 24/7 PvP was griefers. They should increase the gain you get when having PvP on, like better XP. Yeah, I agree, Hushkin. I don't know what they would do. I feel like it's so difficult because when you were flagged and you killed someone else that was flagged, the rewards were actually pretty good. And if you ended up having a 20 versus 20 clash and you're 21, the rewards that you got were fucking fantastic. You know, your weapon mastery, your XP, the gold, whatever the fuck it was, item drops too, were actually really good. But what you would find is that the enemy wouldn't PvP flag as much if they were getting beat down. So you need that initial incentive to get them flagged, to then, you know, get them kills and get them flagged up, and then push forward with that. I think it all has to be incentive based, but it can't be, you know, flag up and you get better resources, because I don't know. That's so tough, man. It's such a tough place. There's a project in EU making an unofficial server. Sounds like a fine option to ensure activity. Yeah, so in the beta we kind of had a couple of companies that got together and PvP pretty much PvP flagged. You know, we had a group of companies that were keen to PvP. And it was very good. Like, if you guys were here during the stream, then we were very, very busy all the fucking time. Constantly in wars. So it can work like that for sure. Do you think they'll stop the fast travel via suicide? I don't think they can, really. I think it's kind of, it's part of the game, isn't it? I think it would be one thing I did see is that if people didn't manage their Azov correctly, then they would run out of it. I saw people run out of it, but they were the more casual's not the right word, but the people just didn't play as much. When you had a lot of time to play, you could get your Azov back up quite quickly. They will remove the respawn button. Maybe they will. It incentivized taking your clothes off and respawning with all your materials. You know, I think that was, you know, not that it shouldn't be in the game. You know, if that's something that's in MMOs, but you know, something for New World in particular that people were misusing it as such. So maybe there's a way to balance it. If removing it's the wrong idea, then balancing it. But yeah, I mean, long story short, boys, I was just, you know, browsing Reddit and saw that like full confirmation that there's no PvP servers at launch, and I personally think it's great that they're keeping their resources on one version of the game, not multiple. It's good. There's a lot of people talking about the idea behind, you know, PvP zones, dark zones, or whatever. I don't know if New World will bring that in. Not for a while, anyway.